After the Miami-Fort Lauderdale metropolitan area, Tampa-St. Petersburg is Florida's most populous area with 2.5 million residents. The Tampa area, lying on the state's western Gulf of Mexico coast, has not sustained a direct hit from a hurricane in 96 years. But in Tampa and central Florida, storm preparations were in full swing, as NewsHour's PJ Tobia reports.
Boarding up and moving out. This is not a drill.
This morning's all about really about preparation, because we're in a mandatory evacuation zone, Zone A, so we basically have to get out of here. Longtime
Tampa resident Michael O'Rourke has been fortifying his house ahead of the coming storm.
Boarding up, sandbagging, moving, furniture, musical equipment from downstairs up to the upstairs, wrapping as much stuff up as we possibly can, and just preparing to leave.
A few minutes from O'Rourke's house, downtown Tampa, normally buzzing, is a ghost town.
This is a violent, deadly weather occurrence. And it, in this case, stretches the entire length and depth of the state. We just hope it moves quickly.
Mayor Bob Buckhorn says Irma poses massive risks for his city. We spoke in Tampa's Emergency Operations Headquarters.
Tampa hasn't been hit in 90 years. But if we do take a direct hit, literally a Cat 3 in downtown Tampa would put my office 15 feet underwater.
Over the past decade, Tampa has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on waterfront development, land threatened by Irma's storm surge. The mayor says construction standards have improved since Florida's most destructive storm, 1992's Hurricane Andrew.
People want to live on the water. That's why they come to Florida. Building codes have increased significantly since Hurricane Andrew. The construction process now is much better than it used to be. Elevations are required at above, 100-year flood zones.
Tampa is a 90-minute drive west of Orlando, the central Florida corridor where so many evacuees from South Florida have gone.
Yeah. Are you worried about the hurricane?
Yeah.
Do you feel safe now?
The Ryan family, from the Miami suburb of Doral, managed to book rooms at an Embassy Suites in Orlando. Business executive Chris Ryan said he wasn't taking any chances with his wife and 2 kids.
I live in Miami for over 20 years. I've never had to experience a Cat 4 or 5 direct hit into Miami. I've been through a few hurricanes, but nothing at this strength and having it hit directly into Miami. And I know people that live through Andrew, and I have family that live in Houston, and so they were insisting that we leave.
Ross left his home in Miami with a few belongings and his dog.
So you got to probably err on the side of caution. We got a big storm coming. Just looks like there's another one coming right after it.
The closest hotel room he could find is in Georgia. It'll cost him more than $300 a night.
Hotels, you can't find anything.
Right.
I was on Expedia even trying to book a flight, and it'll tell you how many people are on. There's 2,000 people searching for this hotel right now, and I'm like, you just keep going.
Central Florida wasn't far enough north for Becky Dykema. Her family left their home near Melbourne for the cheapest hotel they could find in Alabama.
We're leaving here to evacuate from the Hurricane Irma to get safer away, because we live in a trailer park.
Today, leaving Orlando by air was not an option. The city's airport shut down. Tourist attractions like Disney World closed. An hour east of Orlando, on the Atlantic coast, officials moved to their highest level of mobilization.
This is our Emergency Operations Center, and we are at level 1 activation.
Brevard County's Emergency Management Center is housed in a 50-year-old building. Officials there will ride out the storm, sleeping by their workstations.
We know that conditions may be bad enough that if they do leave, they can't get back, and we need them here, so we have them stay here.
Tampa's stunning waterfront draws millions of visitors each year, along with the occasional Super Bowl. But with Hurricane Irma taking direct aim at Florida's 3rd largest city, the Bay could also be its greatest threat. Tampa Fire Chief Tom Forward says the system of bridges and causeways that connect the city might flood to deadly effect.
When the bridges shut down, people cannot move any further. And the last place you want to be is out on a major highway, byway, or thoroughfare in a parking lot with no movement and no one to come save to you. At that point, there's very little that anyone is going to be able to do for you if you've gotten yourself in a situation where flooding is apparent and actually occurring. That's a very, very dire situation.
Chief Forward says that while the storm hits, emergency responders will likely be grounded.
Once the storm is right on top of us and we start getting winds, and especially sustained winds, that are in excess of 39 miles per hour. Once they move in the 40 mile per hour winds, our emergency response and our emergency responders and resources are not going to be moving out into these conditions. So that's why it's so important that the public adheres to the evacuation orders, get out of the area as quickly as they can. Those that are not, those that have made the decision to hunker down, they need to make certain that they have all the provisions that they're going to need for the next 3 days to manage everything they got.
PJ Tobia joins me now from Tampa. PJ, you covered Hurricane Harvey just a couple of weeks ago. Residents there were told not to evacuate. Is there a sense in Florida that that was a wake-up call?
Absolutely. A lot of people here talk about how Harvey was a wake-up call for them. They wanted to get started early and prepare often for this storm. So much so that today, a homeowner that we spoke to had trouble finding plywood to secure his home with. He talked about getting the plywood as if it was some sort of black market affair. He talked about having a contact who could arrange for him to buy some plywood, cash only. The stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, the big department stores, hardware stores, were all out of that sort of thing. So people did heed the lessons of Harvey. They took it to heart and got prepared as soon as possible. A lot of people also left town a couple days ago. And I would remind you that the evacuation order we're in the middle of it now, but mandatory evacuation isn't until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So people really heeded the call and took the advice of Harvey to heart.
PJ, as you stand there in front of Tampa Bay, and I know you talked to the mayor today, what are some of the sort of infrastructure concerns that they have?
Yeah, well, I mean, part of the challenge of this place is the beautiful bay that surrounds it. One of the biggest hospitals in the state, Tampa General, it's the area's level 1 trauma center. It's a very important medical facility in this area. It's built on an island, on Davis Island. The only way on it or off that island to the hospital is a series of causeways, bridges that go over the bay. And the mayor assured me that the island could be self-sufficient if and when those causeways flood, and that they have enough fuel, food, and generators to subsist for a couple of weeks without contact with the mainland. But it does speak to the special challenges that Tampa Bay is undergoing as this storm makes way for it.
PJ, you and our crew traveled pretty much across the state this morning. What'd you see?
Well, roads are empty. Anyone who wanted to get out, I think pretty much has or is in the process of doing so now. It's not the kind of mass exodus that we saw a little bit earlier in the week. Again, the lessons of Harvey being learned and taken to heart. But a lot of store shelves are empty. Most gas stations are closed. When you can get to a gas station, a few pumps will usually be closed, meaning that they are out of fuel. And when you do try and fuel up, it takes a long time, showing that the tank at that pump is nearing empty.
All right, PJ Tobia joining us from Tampa today. Stay safe.
Thanks so much, Hari.